Ready for World Password Day? Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. With us from Trend Micro is VP of Global Consumer Education, Lynette Owens. Hi, Lynette.
Hi, Fred. It's great to be here.
Great to see you again. Now, tell us, first of all, most people might be unaware, perhaps even Hallmark isn't aware. There's a World Password Day.
That's correct. And if you think about it, there's probably a day for almost anything that you can think about. But it's a day when we can raise awareness about the importance of good password practices.
So what are some of the basics that people should know? I think you have some stats showing that a lot of us aren't doing all that we should.
That's correct. I mean, passwords are very important in terms of protecting our online privacy and the security of our personal information. But unfortunately, while for many years now we've tried to educate people that strong passwords are important and changing them frequently are important, only 62.9% of people actually will change their passwords only when prompted to do so, rather than making it a regular habit that they practice.
I guess the problem is, speaking for the general public out there, we need passwords for so many things, and trying to remember them is nearly impossible. So what are some of the best solutions for getting around those issues?
Well, there are a lot of options to doing this. The first is actually to use a password manager. Actually, I apologize for that, Fred. I don't know if we should strike that out.
Well, you can just pick up from the answer there.
Okay, because my cat just I should have let her out of the room.
It's not a this is the age of Zoom. Everything's
Yeah.
everything's
Okay.
fair game. Okay.
All right, great. So we actually would like to encourage people to manage the complexity of so many passwords in their lives by using something like a password manager, because a password manager is a way to simplify that process. Obviously, we're not going to tell people to minimize the number of apps, websites, or games or devices that they choose to use, but because you want to protect what is on those devices and apps and games, you obviously need to be using a password. So a password manager is a way for you to simplify that process where you really only have to remember one thing, and it will help offload the management of those multiple passwords for you.
Some people may wonder, well, can I trust a password manager if I'm giving all of my passwords to somebody else?
That's a great question and point. And obviously, I think there are a lot of concerns about almost anything we're doing with technology. To some degree, you need to put your trust in some of the organizations out there, because if you're choosing to use an email address or a shopping website, you're also trusting those organizations that they will handle your credit card information or your emails or other kinds of information about you in a way that's secure and confidential. So, if you do your research, you will find that there are reputable organizations like Trend Micro who offer password managers who have been in the business of securing people's information for many decades.
What about the issue of people sharing their passwords or writing them down on a piece of paper, a sticky note, even putting them on a screen? I've seen that done.
Yes, and it's hard to break old habits when it's probably much easier to have it within easy reach of us to remember things like passwords. And sharing it with other people is something we don't really recommend. Think of it as a toothbrush, something you really should just keep to yourself, not share with others, and probably change frequently as well.
We're seeing a trend with some apps, for instance, on phones, where they'll use fingerprints to log you on, or another two-factor identification. These are things that can really help, I assume.
Absolutely. So actually, one of the things that we recommend with regard to just this first step of securing your privacy and your information is not only using a strong password, but using additional things on top of that. It's often called 2FA or two-factor authentication. Some apps like to call it two-step verification, but basically it's like a second lock. And that second lock could be in the form of a code that is texted to you. So after you enter a password, you then have to enter the code. Or you could use a biometric kind of piece of data, like your fingerprint, like your face scan, and so on. So we do recommend that you do use that in concert with passwords and not only use a password.
How worried should people be when they get notifications saying that their passwords may have been compromised on this site or that site, that kind of thing? Because those notifications have become pretty common.
They have, and I think there's two things to note about those notifications. Number one, to make sure it's something that has legitimately happened. So under the assumption that this has in fact happened, and we are concerned that this has been on the rise, there have been more and more incidences of people's passwords being leaked on the dark web, meaning someone has been able to obtain them unbeknownst to you and might actually be trying to trade it as currency with other criminals. But you should be concerned if you do get that alert, especially if it's coming from an organization you know that you've been having a business relationship with, or you know that you're using that app. So make sure you do change your password if that happens. If you're not using two-factor authentication, you should be doing that. You definitely should also check your credit report if it happens to be a password for something like a shopping website or a banking website. And if you know where your password was leaked from, make sure the app or site that you're using or device to which it's happened is updated. Very often people forget to do those updates on a regular basis. Those updates are trying to patch up security holes very often.
What shouldn't we be using as our passwords?
It's a great question. And unfortunately, a lot of people are using the word password. So we definitely recommend not using the word password as a password. It's important not to use any personal information as part of your password. And another thing to stay away from is any words in the dictionary. Cyber criminals already know how to throw every word in the dictionary at an account they may be trying to hack very quickly. So we recommend not using words that you find in the dictionary. We do recommend, however, using the longer the password, the stronger it is. So we do recommend that. Something that we talk to parents a lot about as they teach their children good password habits is to consider a sentence. Make up a sentence that's really easy to remember and use the first letter of each word in the sentence as your password. Throw in a special character, maybe a number, and then change that often, because it will look like an unrecognizable string of characters, but it means something to you because it's actually a sentence that you came up with.
Some great advice. And May 5th is the day that the World Password Day is, I guess, celebrated. That's the
It
right word.
is, absolutely. And we recommend that perhaps one way everyone can celebrate that day is to change your passwords.
Very good. For more info, is there a place we can go?
Absolutely. You can visit us at trendmicro.com to find out more.
Lynette Owens, thank you for taking the time with us.
Thank you, Fred.